Well, it's 2025 and the layoffs have begun. People all over the United States are starting to lose their jobs now. It's people who work for the governments, people who work for corporations. It could be because of political policy. It could be because of AI. It could just be because corporations are trying to consolidate to earn a little bit more money. Not that that's anything new. But of course, the consequence of a culture who's always seeking profit is that you have to trim the fat. And it's a harsh reality when we realize that we are the fat that's being trimmed. It makes us feel inconsequential. It makes us feel unvalued. It makes us feel disposable. And in this system, we are disposable. In this corporate structure, we are just interchangeable parts that can be switched out and replaced by a cheaper part. And that's why it's so hard for people to hold on to careers nowadays. That's why, the idea of staying in a career until you retire, for most people, for many people, just isn't a viable strategy anymore. Because as soon as you start making a little bit too much money, as soon as you have so much experience that you think that you can start asking for pay raises or concessions to make your life easier, maybe you want to spend a little bit more time at home with the family. Maybe you want to take some time off and go travel or something. And while you may have been considered a valuable asset before, now you're just seen as maybe a bit of a problem. Because unless you're comfortable making nothing, unless you're comfortable just making enough to get by, the reality is they can start seeing you as maybe you just don't fit in here. Or like I said, maybe you're just redundant now and we don't need you anymore. So here's a severance package or not, but hey, go enjoy. But like I said, it's a scary thing and it's a hard reality. And many people all over the country right now are facing layoffs. They say this is the biggest series of layoffs that we've ever seen. And at the same time, some people are rejoicing. People are celebrating the fact that so many people are losing their jobs. Mostly this is because of political reasons. No one actually wants to see people suffer. Only a truly terrible person enjoys seeing suffering in other people. But I think that kind of sense of retribution, of revenge, has really been inculcated into the spirit of America at this point. It's going to be something that's very hard to get rid of at this point. I am someone who believes that all this stuff is kind of done on purpose. I think that is done on purpose because profits on the higher end of society have continued steadily to rise and rise and rise, while at the same time, the rest of us are starting to see struggle rise and rise and rise. So to reduce it down to something as simple as my party's in charge, so we're going to be okay, or this party's in charge, so it's all going to be downhill. I think it's one of the greatest tricks that's been played on Americans or anyone who lives in a more consumeristic culture. It goes beyond government. It goes beyond local government. And when I mean local government, I mean the locality of the United States. The global strategy of profit mongering is something that's far reaching and goes far beyond national borders. And us normal people, as a consequence, are just expendable cogs that can be switched out and thrown away. That's why I say, divest from any kind of corporate structure and build yourselves and build your communities. And while as utopian as that may seem, as a bit pie-eyed and even delusional, some people might say, I don't think that it actually is. I just think that it's a hard road to travel down to a better life for everyone. Because do we need all this? Do we need all these things that we're told are important that give us fulfillment? No. And maybe all these series of layoffs are going to be good for kind of the collective consciousness of us all. I think the more people who realize that they're being seen as expendable, that they can lose their jobs like that, they're going to want more security. And of course, I can mention something like unionization, but of course, that's going to create a lot of red flags to a lot of people who see unions as being communist or something like that. Although the same people who say that unions are communist are the same people who love unions for tradesmen. So really, I guess it's an argument of credentialism. Where does that come from? Do you get a certificate from a trade school or did you get a degree from a university? And is that how you are going to let yourself look at other people by the credential that they have? It's a kind of bizarre reverse elitism. But as I always say, lead with empathy. We're all in this together. Beyond all the superficial qualifiers that society and our government label us, the fact is we are all either Americans or we're all countrymen. We're all in this together. And by allowing ourselves to follow the narrative that we are so different, we'll always keep ourselves from living a better life together. But for a moment, I want to speak about practicality if you have been laid off. Food banks, churches. I know that's a scary thing. A lot of people don't like church these days. A lot of people don't believe in it. But pretty much every church has a food bank. Every church has a program that will help people out. And it's not just for people who go to that church. If you need help, they will go. As a Christian, I can only speak about Christian churches. I don't know anything about synagogues. I don't know anything about mosques, but I can say that in the Christian community. But I can say that pretty much every church does have a program like that, and they don't care what you believe. If you need help, they'll give you help. They have something. Is it going to be the freshest food? Is it going to be the best food? Probably not, but it's something. The other thing I say, lean on community. If you have a friend who's just been laid off, go and help them. Maybe invite them over for dinner, because you don't know, maybe they had no savings. Maybe there's nothing else there. They got fired and they weren't expecting it. And now, beyond rent, maybe they just can't even feed themselves. Do something, do anything. I hate when people revert back to the stance of just, it is what it is. We have to go beyond that. We have to look out for each other. And this is one of those moments where we have to look out for each other. This is one of those moments where we have to come from an empathetic stance and see people beyond what they believe, beyond what they post on social media. We have to see them as our countrymen. We have to see them as a fellow human, more than anything else, a fellow human who is in a desperate time. We have to be there for them and be there to support them. Like I said, just make them a meal, or even offer to help them with groceries. Be like, yeah, just pay me back sometime, even though you're not really worried about that. Give a helping hand, not because you feel bad, not because you pity people, but because it's the right thing to do. And if you're somebody who has a hard time asking for help from other people, which is something that I understand because I'm someone who has a deep sense of pride, but I'm someone who's gone through poverty quite a few times in my life. So I understand that sometimes you need to get out of your comfort zone. You have to put your pride aside and do what's best for yourself and what's best for your family. Ask for help. Talk to family, even though you may not have a relationship with that family anymore. Explain to them the situation that you're in, and maybe they can help, or not. And even if you're not asking for money, even if you're not asking for food, by having a social network, by reaching out into the community, by reaching out to family members, by reaching out to friends, friends of friends, friends of family, I guarantee you can find a job. The vast majority of people who get jobs, the vast majority of jobs that I've had in my life weren't because I put in an application. It's because I knew somebody. This is reality. And it's not just white collar jobs that this happens at. This is everything. Because people want to work with people that they think that they're going to get along with. And if you have a friend that backs you, or you have a family member that backs you and said, this is a good person, I think they're going to fit in here. You have a job that's opening. Why not give them a shot? You'd be surprised how often you can get a job that way. A layoff isn't a permanent thing. It's a roadblock, yes, but it's not the end of the world. So put your pride aside and do what you have to do. I think the layoffs that we're seeing right now should be a reminder to everyone that a kind of preparedness and cushion to get us through to the next phase, to the next job, is just as much of a necessity as paying your rent, as paying your mortgage, because these are times of great uncertainty. We're in a moment in America, we're in a moment in the world of great change. We don't really know what's coming down the road, so you have to act with prudence. And a prudent man, a prudent person, would start maybe building a savings, even if it isn't much, just enough to make sure that you have food, maybe rent. They said, 70% of people in America don't even have $1,000 in their bank account. And while I do understand and I believe that most of this is not our fault, it's the result of a failing economy, it's the result of failing policy, of a political and managerial class who cares nothing about us and juices us for everything. At the same time, Americans, we do tend to spend a little bit more than we should. So this is a time, maybe even if it's temporarily, that everyone should just kind of downsize and draw it back a little bit. See this? This is my coffee. I make my own coffee. I don't spend $5 a day. I think that this is one of the greatest myths, that people from the youngest generations just go out and spend $600-700 a month at cafes. And this is life. Most people don't have that kind of money. And people are too busy working. Let's be honest. Who's going to Starbucks? No one's going to Starbucks. The only people who are lining up at Starbucks are idiots at this point. Make your coffee at home. There's great options. Go to a Circle K. Go to a gas station. Gas station coffee these days is fantastic. I love it. I use it all the time. Circle K, it's not like it was when I was a kid, when it was just this gross silver-bottomed pot, right? Always coffee grounds at the bottom. No, it's fresh ground now. It's awesome. Why not? It's, $1.50, $2. Or you can be like me and just make your own coffee. In this case, it's a cappuccino because I like cappuccino. But of course, there's always going to be times in life where we need to tighten the belt and we need to be a little bit more financially responsible. And this is one of those times. Any time of uncertainty, people need to prepare themselves. Because that's really the two outlooks that people have during times of uncertainty, is one where I need to become prepared and one where nothing matters, let's just spend it. And I think that this is a horrible place to be in, because although the dollar is devaluing, although the price of everything is going up, and you may say, why save? What's the point? Why invest anything? But the fact is, things can happen, and that's what we're seeing right now. Layoffs can happen. Life can change on a dime, and we have to be prepared for that. So even if it may seem like a stupid thing, have a little bit of a cushion. But layoffs are scary, and it's a tough place to be, and it's hard to see our friends and our family suffer because they shouldn't have to. We all just want a job. We all just want to get by. We all just want some sense of security that we can have a life and live our lives. But if we're always in a position of struggle now, And that struggle and that state of survival in this moment in time, especially in this moment of change, is highlighted by the fact that so many people, the most people in history at the same time, have been laid off and are losing their jobs. This isn't something to laugh at. This isn't something to just look at the news cycle and say, oh, this is interesting, this is sad, and then just move on. It is a symptom of something greater. And understand, if we think things are moving in the right direction now, the consequence of that direction is hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs, losing their livelihoods, being placed in a position where they can't support themselves or their family. If that's a consequence of the direction we're moving into, maybe that's a bad direction. This isn't enjoyment. This isn't entertainment. These are people's lives, and people need to be held accountable. But I don't know, it's rough out there. So, guys, let me know in the comments what you think. You think this is going to be more of a regular thing? Personally, I do. I think we're going to see a lot more layoffs. I think as things begin to get harder and we keep going down this road, I think that cost of living is going to go up. I think housing is going to get even worse. But that's for another video. But I don't know. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.